Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Rachel here with another Dragonheir video. Looking at, this is part 2, I suppose, my 6 teams for the Season 3 Endgame boss. Now, there will have been a video that went out, a few hours ago, looking at the first 3. Now this one is looking at the second 3, so without further ado, let's jump right in. So the first team we're going to look at is an interesting one. For any of you that sat through my 45-minute drivel video looking at the boss prior to the change, Ice Blast was not viable because they used their battle skill or so often they triggered the boss's passive, so you always had 100% damage reduction. Since the change has become 5% per stack, Ice Blast is viable. Still not ideal because I will regularly have sort of 5-6 stacks up, which is a 30% damage reduction, but you're still doing the damage, right? And especially if you have Beldel, you can just power through it to get through to the 200 million, which I do. Now, if you don't have Beldel, once again, it does not mean that this strategy is not an option for you. I've seen many people use sort of Bledin instead of Beldel. Nord as a generator, maybe sort of Zorak. Now, I'm not going to say it scores as high, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't mean you can't use it. So just to show you a screenshot here. Again, not the highest score at 100 million, but 100 million is still good. So it is viable. Now, I don't know the gear that's on these ones here either, but it's certainly something to consider. Obviously, if this guy had Shinner in here instead of Nord, it might score even higher. So obviously, work with what you got. But hopefully I can sort of share some light on the fact that this is a viable strategy. So what have we got here then? Let's take a look at the equipment plan. I have Fruabath in the Puppeteer set with the Horn. So he's giving his defense to everyone. And when he does heal, he'll increase the damage of everybody too. Shinner in the Witch's Remains. She is my Witch's Remains applier. Zorak in the fan, that's why he stood back a little bit with the derivative damage set and the Carnage gloves. And as you can see, I've got Beldel and Girthin in aerial sets with Finality gloves. Now, similar to something I spoke about Shadow, Finality is okay. Yes, it does give you almost like recharge speed slow, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. But as we've mentioned, Ice Blast do their damage off their battle skill, and providing they have enough ice crystals, they will just keep recasting that over and over again. So it doesn't actually matter how often they cast their ultimate. So just having a flat 35% damage up all the time is better than having 35% damage up some of the time, like these two have. But I need these two to cast their ultimates at a specific time, which is why they are not in the Finality gloves. So shout out to Dragonheir or Porch for sort of showing how this team works for me. Skill timing, everyone is free to go whenever they want, except for Zorak, because he is putting that all-important buff up for me to stop the turn meter reduction. Now, this is a team that will do 200 million. It only just does 200 million for me, but it still does it. So, just like in my previous video, I will slow it down. I will give you one full rotation, and then we will pause it, and I'll come back once it is finished. So we have our defense down going out, and our attack down. Zorak is obviously holding off here. And then Girthin and Bledin just sort of jumping in when they feel like it. Unfortunately for me, Bledin always seems to miss the defense down. Unless I sort of delay sitting there for just a second or two, which actually might be worth it. Zorak putting the buff up on our Ice Blast champions, so it is only Furbath that loses some turn meter there. But again, we're not overly concerned about his ultimate. He's simply here to provide some healing. Now, another thing I will mention, I suppose, before I pause it, Zorak will bite the dust before the fight is over for me. It varies somewhere between 1 minute and then 30 seconds left of the fight. I obviously score higher if he survives until that last 30-second period. So there we go, guys. I'll leave it here. As I say, we will come back very shortly. Righty-ho, so that's the end of the first one. And Zorak bit the dust just sort of around 40 seconds. Managed to score my 200 million that I've sort of set a goal for myself, I suppose. So once again, we are going to save that one. And then we'll jump into team number 2. Rightio, so the second one for this one is going to be my poison team. Now this team, Ogok, or he's one of the few teams I suppose, but my Ogok is running on a 30-second rotation rather than 2 lots of 15 like I've seen in a previous one. I do have Lothair. I do not have his exclusive though, but he is what is providing the damage in this team. I do have Corin in the sort of 170, 180 skill haste to maintain that poison count for Lothair to really thrive. And I've got a Lurari, I think he is. Luray, and Shink. So take a look at the equipment plan. So say I do have Ogok in the staff. I'm thinking of actually changing that to the horn to see if we get any better results, which, you know, we should do in theory. Shink, my richest remains, because she hits 5 times at the end. And again, I will be changing these gloves in a second. The Rari just as a damage dealer with just enough accuracy to sort of help out. Corin, as I mentioned, in the Hourglass, in just some skill haste gear. I don't have another skill haste rune which provides more skill haste than this one, which isn't ideal, but we'll get over it. And then Lothair in the derivative damage enlightenment gear, enlightenment relic, and again the Carnage gloves. So I'm going to quickly just see if I can get some better runes and such than everyone, because I have been doing some farming today, and then we'll start the run. So one thing before we go is I didn't show you the skill timing, I don't think. So we have Ogok, say, going at the 30.5 second mark to place a stat buff to stop the turn meter reduction. I've then got Shink going just before the 30 seconds, so before the sort of passive cleanse were to put our defense down. And then we've got Lothair and Lurari coming up the rear to hit in the fragility state. And then Corin is just going whenever he feels like it to maintain the poison stacks. We did change a little bit of gear around, so we'll see if we can score higher. Sort of the 197, 198 that I normally do. So Corin goes nice and early, and then it's sort of a bit of a waiting game at this point now until we get to that 30-second mark. I did put Ogok in the horn. I don't know if that's a mistake or not, because the skill haste he provides meant that his battle skill would kick in more often, getting the cleanse off. So we'll see if that sort of plays into effect here. Shink obviously put the defense down. Lothair comes in here, followed by Lurari. And that's that. So Lurari's damage will scale up the more stacks that we get on, same with Lothair. And yeah, that is the run. So, we'll see you back here in a jiff. Right, that's the end of that one then. So I had to change the gear back. I had to put the staff back on Orok because I needed that skill haste for the battle skill rather than the horn. But it's a very slight improvement. It was only 1 point something million, but you know, still an improvement all the same. So that is our 5th team done for today. So now we're just going to take a look at the last one, which is Shadow, and then we'll look at sort of where that puts me, essentially. So this is my Shadow team. So we'll use this just here. Change the aura, and then we'll take a look at the actual sort of skill timings and things. So the only skill that we have timed is Torin. Okay, all Torin's doing is just putting that invisibility buff on everyone so that they don't get the say ult meter knockback. Now you'll notice from the position that there is no one actually in front of Torin, so no one is benefiting from his passive. But that's fine because I want everyone to get sort of the invisibility and sort of everyone to benefit. So then taking a look at the gear, we of course have Torin in the horn in a puppeteer set to spread some defense around to everyone. Zarloth, she's only really here for the aura. He, not entirely sure. They are only here for the aura. In the Captain Hook's horn, so an extra 15% crit rate for me, which is fab. Taldi in the Witch's Remains, of course, because he can keep up the Witch's Remains very often. Before his nerf, after the sort of first test we did, he could do it 100% uptime, but they reduced his shadow energy, so he can't do it 100% now. Daphne in the organ, she has over 8,000 attack, and she is only here to buff up our Ozzel. And then Ozzel in the egg, which gives him some crit rate, some increased attack here. Fancy gloves, because again, once he casts his ultimate once, I'm not worried because he's never coming out of demon form, so I'd rather just have the constant 35% damage that we get. Yeah, the egg. This could do some improving. I will try and take a look at this again because we did some rune farming today. But yeah, that is what everyone is rocking. So once again, I will pause. We'll just have a quick look at the gear, see if I can make any improvements, and we'll go into the run. So having a quick look, no improvements to be made apart from putting some Carnage gloves on Taldi. So hopefully that will increase my damage a little bit more. So for the last time today then, to say, everyone is just free reign, which is kind of what you want. Say 5%. Oh, did she jump into him? No, I didn't catch her. So, normally Daphne would jump into Ozil, and Ozil will never leave demon form now he has cast his ultimate the first time. And yeah, so there's nothing really too much to say apart from the fact that, say, Torin is timed just to give us the invisibility to stop the knockback of Zarloth. It doesn't matter if everyone else has their turn meter knockback, but I actually found that not timing it, I did way less damage because Zarloth was ulting less, so that's the only reason it is timed. And so outside that, we just let everyone do their thing. So, you know, 190 this generally does. I have got it to 200 million once. It is kind of a bit of RNG dependent on the crits. But hopefully, now we've got Taldi in some Carnage gloves, we can get there. So we will leave it there for a sec, and we'll come back when the run is over. Righty-ho, and that is the last of our teams done. Just shy of the 200, but it's close enough for me to accept that one. Maybe if we caught that Daphne for the first hole, we could have got over the line. So, where does that put me then? So, as I've alluded to in previous videos, I do not have a free-to-play account, but it's certainly not a massive whale account either. I don't have huge inspirations or anything like that. So I'm actually really chuffed with myself, I suppose, is the best way, the only way to describe it, really. That I'm able to score as high as I have been. So obviously it hasn't quite updated yet, but let's just add 2 onto that. That'll put me on 804.3, something like that. So it will sit me in 8th. Now, we've only got one more day on this boss, and I'm praying it's enough to stay in the top 10. I'm hoping that no one else can really overtake me after this. But obviously what will be will be. But if I can stay where I am, I do get 10,000 more echoes above 11 to 20. And that will serve me pretty well in the sort of leaderboard for the season, as it were. You know, I'm currently hovering around sort of mid-20s, but if I can sort of hold off, you know, I'll jump quite a few people just by getting that extra 10. Having a quick peek here, obviously Garkin's up with me, so I won't jump him, but I'll be on what, 3-8, so you know, it should sort of pop me inside the sort of the top 20. So I will sort of jump up a bracket. Sure, it's only 3 more dice and 2 more worm arrow, which is about what, 20 quid, but you know, still a nice achievement, at least for me, especially where my server merged with another one and I finished top 26 last year. The fact that I'm still in contention this season, this season, you know, you say it's a feel good sort of proud moment. So now, one thing I didn't really talk about, to be fair, and I do apologise, were other options for the teams that I've done. So for this one, I don't have Rook because I haven't done Corrosion. But obviously, if you have Rook, great, you've got 200 million. If you don't have Rook, you can score sort of 100, 110 that I've seen. Shadow's a hard one, really. If you don't have Ozzel, again, it's very difficult to score highly, but I have seen teams sort of around 160 using a Spalter instead. Burn teams I've seen sort of do around 100 and 120 million. But say Poison's not really an option unless you have Lothair. And I forget who the other one was that we did in this little video. Let's have a quick peek. Ice Blast, yeah. So Ice Blast we've talked about. So there we are then, guys. Say my 6 teams, all in all. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. Take it easy. Work hard. But as always, play harder. And I'll see you in another one soon. Cheers.